He seems to have convinced Trump that all of his talking points are actually true. Everything from it was Ukraine's fault, not Russia, that actually invaded Ukraine in 2022 and annexed Crimea in 2014. But he also seems to have persuaded Trump of this Putin talking line that Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskiy is an illegitimate leader and there needs to be elections. Zelensky was elected in 2019 and there hasn't been a presidential election since then because of the war. Elections are not allowed in Ukraine because of martial law, and Zelensky and others have pointed that it's impossible to hold an election, a free and fair election, while the war is ongoing. And this is really an attempt by Putin to undermine Zelensky's legitimacy, which has been his long-term aim.
In your wonderful book, you have key players up front. And folks, it's names from another time and place. Boris Johnson of the United Kingdom, Jonathan Black, who was Prime Minister Johnson's assistant. Who are the checks and balances now within this process? Does Secretary of State Rubio, for example, have a voice, Stephanie Baker?
He does, but he seems to be falling in line behind Trump's, historic shift in the U.S. relationship with Russia. His spokesman, Rubio's spokesman, yesterday talked about laying the groundwork for economic cooperation and investment opportunities that will arise as a result of the ending of the war in Ukraine, which makes it sound like they're ready to reestablish economic ties with Russia. So beyond just the possibility of lifting sanctions as part of any deal, which is a kind of remarkable statement while Trump is threatening tariffs on the rest of the world, that they would actually be talking about trying to, talk about economic cooperation with Russia, which is just, a phenomenal turn of events. It's a real worry. The Biden administration's policy towards Russia of isolating Russia, imposing harsh sanctions on Russia, had its flaws. But at this point, right before Trump came into office, the sanctions were finally beginning to bite, and it appears that Trump is about to give Putin sanctions relief and get him out of a bind, because I think Putin really would like some sanctions relief to regroup and rearm, to take another bite at Ukraine a few years down the line.
Stephanie, what do we know about the ability of Ukraine to take a significant role in any peace negotiations that do, in fact, take place between the U.S. and Russia?
Well, Trump has said that down the line Ukraine would have a seat at the table, but I think there is real concern that the broad outlines of any deal would be agreed between the U.S. and Russia without Ukraine participating, and that it would be sort of a fait accompli by the time Ukraine is included or other European countries are included. And remember, Zelensky doesn't have a lot of leverage here. He's very dependent on U.S. Military aid in particular. And the Europeans can't really step up in any real way without U.S. military logistical support. Even if the EU is able to step up financially to help Ukraine, they really need the U.S. on board for any kind of what they're calling a tripwire force that would be possibly put in Ukraine to enforce any deal that is eventually agreed.